I'll confirm when we're online here, J-Dubs. We got channels up and running?
Group is up.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, viewers and listeners, let's rock and roll here. We are now live on the I Love CVille group, and we're getting our other pages up and running as we speak. Thank you, J-Dubs. We don't have to sweat that until we get channels up, because I can monologue. I want to monologue in the front on a dynamic monologue over there from a production standpoint, if we could, please, sir. Take a look at the screen for today's headlines, viewers and listeners. Take a look at the screen for today's headlines. There's a couple of items that are not on the headlines that I want to relay to the community, to you guys. We are not quite live on my personal Facebook.
Okay.
I'll confirm the channels here for you, J-Dubs. We are live on the...
YouTube is up. I believe LinkedIn is up.
Yep, LinkedIn is up. John Blair's confirmed. Thank you, John Blair, on that. We appreciate you, John. Sincerely mean that. YouTube, I will confirm for you. Man, my phone is blowing up right now. YouTube is up. You are right, Judah. Thank you very much for that. What is going on with Youngkin, dude? We touched on this briefly yesterday. Is it just a... You characterized this in the comments. I think it was a response to Holly Foster yesterday, where you basically said he's nothing more than a bully.
Yeah.
That's what you basically said. He's a bully. Twitter's up and running. Thank you, Judah. I want to talk about the ties with Albemarle County candidate Sally Duncan, who's running for the Jack Jewett district, and her husband, who works for the city of Charlottesville. Deep Throat has put this on my radar, and I think it's something that needs to be mentioned as a connection. The candidate for Jack Jewett, Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, her husband works at City Hall, where he's the city's chief traffic engineer. Is that a conflict of interest? Should that be disclosed and highlighted to voters? I want to have that conversation on today's show. I want to talk on today's program. I want to show you the ad that the Jefferson Council ran about... This is an insane ad, encouraging Glenn Youngkin to fire Jim Ryan. They basically have a Nana Nana Boo Boo ad going on, where Jim Ryan is snubbing his nose at the governor in the Richmond Times-Dispatch and the Daily Progress. We will show you that print ad on today's show. We'll talk other solutions for the Federal Executive Institute that UVA may want to consider. I had this conversation yesterday. Instead of David and Goliath pulverizing David in his slingshot, which would be city schools here. Judah, we are live. Are we live on my Facebook?
Yeah.
Excellent. Which headline most intrigues you and why?
I mean, they're all pretty intriguing today. We've got, I think that ad that the Jefferson Council placed has got me laughing.
You like the ad?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I could have done a better drawing, but...
your drawing would have been better, but still, the ad was... Jefferson Council, you would pretty much characterize as a lobbying group, right?
I guess.
What's the difference between a lobbying group and an activist group?
I'd have to give that some thought.
The one and the same? All right, we'll talk about that on today's program. Viewers and listeners, remember, Lieutenant Governor candidate John Reed will join us on the I Love CVille show on Thursday in what should be an explosive interview. Mark your calendars for Thursday, boys and girls. All right, J-Dubs, we can rock and roll when you're ready.
Quiet on the set.
Good Tuesday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille show. A pleasure to connect with you through our network, the I Love CVille network, our studio in downtown Charlottesville, and our building, the Macklin building. A lot we're going to cover on the program. We have some items that did not make the rundown that I want to relay to you, including Albemarle County, Jack Jewett, supervisor candidate Sally Duncan, and her connection to Charlottesville City Hall. Her husband works within Charlottesville City Hall as a chief traffic engineer. I want to talk about that on today's show. I think the relationship is something that should be in the open. Someone that could potentially be a supervisor in Albemarle County whose spouse works inside City Hall at a time where Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville do not always see eye to eye on a lot of things, and certainly at a time when adjacent jurisdictions have traffic flow, work flow, employment flow, activist flow crossing jurisdictional lines. We'll have that conversation on the Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show. My phone is blowing up right now with viewers and listeners. You, the viewer and listener, are encouraged to offer perspective on the show. I have, again, print media, radio media, and television media all over the show. I want to remind viewers and listeners, the Thursday edition of the I Love CVille show, Lieutenant Governor candidate John Reed, a conservative former radio talk show host, is going to join us on the program. He's in the crossfire of Glenn Youngkin, specifically one of Youngkin's political action committees, PACs, who, according to John Reed, have offered John Reed an escape of some sorts where they will purchase the opposition research that is painting John Reed as I'm at a loss of the words I should use here.
I think
what is the opposition? How are they trying to paint John Reed as did you use the phrase sexual deviant yesterday? I don't want to impugn the man's character because I think this is all nasty mudslinging.
I was just going to say, it just seems like mudslinging. I don't know if they're actually trying to accuse him of anything or just make him look bad enough that he drops out.
Yeah, Judah Wickhauer's voice off camera, they're trying to paint Reed in a negative light by utilizing sexual pictures, gay pornography against Reed in anonymous burner social media accounts. Reed says, bring it on. This is bogus. It's a lie. I'm staying in the race. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, what the heck is going on with Glenn Youngkin of late? We're in the bottom of the 8th inning of Youngkin's term that ends at the end of this year, and it seems like the blue cheese is crumbling at significant proportions. What is happening to the once presidential Glenn Youngkin, who looks vulnerable, feeble, and uncertain in the governor's mansion, again, with about 8 months left in his term? I want to talk about that today. I want to talk on today's show, the Jefferson Council paying for full-page print ads in the Richmond Times-Dispatch and the Daily Progress. And these full-page print ads are essentially a nana-nana-boo-boo, Jim Ryan going like this to Glenn Youngkin in caricature cartoon fashion. We're going to show you the print ad. This world is a crazy place. You got Jim Ryan, the president of UVA, being attacked from different angles constantly, including in today's Daily Progress by the University of Virginia Physicians Group. You have Glenn Youngkin, the governor, being attacked from different angles, including from the Jefferson Council camp, including from a lieutenant governor on the Youngkin ticket, the Republican ticket. It is heavy. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, ladies and gentlemen. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. A lot I want to talk about on today's show, as you can see, and then we're going to try to go to bat for Circa the furniture store, the antique store, they're asking the community for help as a coordinated effort amongst three villains here? Three thieves?
Yep.
Targeted Circa in the McIntyre Plaza and stole company checks, a company checkbook ledger from Circa, and coordinated thievery. Small businesses are dying the death of 1,000 cuts. It certainly does not need to be 1,001 with coordinated thievery and straight up villains going into the store to rip off the locally owned and operated institution of its checkbooks and its check ledger. Goodness gracious, so much to cover on the I Love CVille show. We'll give some props to one of our favorite locally owned and operated businesses, Judah, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, 60 consecutive years in business. Let's make it another 60. John Vermillion, Andrew Vermillion, 3 generations strong, online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com and located on East High Street. Honest, integrity, communication, education. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, everything that locally owned businesses should embody. This brand absolutely does. Another locally owned business that's having a lot of success this year, guys, it's Charlottesville Business Brokers, one of our divisions, charlottesvillebusinessbrokers.com. We have so much deal flow that's going on, and if you're one of those entrepreneurs that's looking to exit his or her business or buy a business, we can help you get to that point at Charlottesville Business Brokers. Studio camera, Georgia Gilmer, welcome to the broadcast. Television, radio, and print all over the broadcast. Elected officials on the show, including Fluvanna County, Albemarle County, City of Charlottesville, and Nelson County electeds watching us right now. Studio camera, 2-shot, Judah Wickhauer. I want to start with the Jefferson Council print ad. Before I do something that did not make my radar, that was put on my radar by Deep Throat, number 1 on the family, his photo on screen is a relationship that I think needs to be more well known. I am not going to use the phrase conflict of interest here, but I think it is a relationship that needs to be known. Sally Duncan is running for the Jack Jewett Albemarle County Board of Supervisors seat. Diantha McKeel has strangle-held this post for 4 terms, and Supervisor McKeel announced recently that she will not seek another term. Sally Duncan, who I believe is an educator, has chosen to run for this Jack Jewett seat. Interestingly, this is now my district, and she is extremely pro-housing, pro-density, pro-rooftops. You would say her ideology and platform is left-leaning, if not very left-leaning. Deep Throat puts on my radar her husband is Brennan Duncan, who works in traffic engineering. In fact, I believe the chief traffic engineer of the city of Charlottesville. In fact, I'll go to his LinkedIn page, Brennan Duncan. He's worked at the city of Charlottesville for nearly 10 years. City engineer, full-time city engineer is what his post says, a position he was promoted to in July of 2024. Previously, from January 2017 to June 2024, he was the city traffic engineer, and before that, the assistant city engineer. So you're looking at a upper middle management post in City Hall. I'm going to just put it out there in the ecosystem that a candidate that has a very good chance to win the seat in the Jack Jewett district. Now, she does have competition. She does have competition in that district, and we'll highlight her competition perhaps in a future show. So it's a competitive race to replace Diantha McKeel. There's 2 candidates. Is it a conflict of interest at all that someone that is seeking one of 6 spots on Albemarle County's Board of Supervisors, the 6th largest county in the Commonwealth, a budget north of $600 million, her partner, her husband in this case, is middle upper management employed by Charlottesville and works as a chief engineer in City Hall? I'll leave it to the viewer and listener to decide. I do know that Albemarle County and City of Charlottesville, their relationship is not always sunshine and roses. I do know that a boatload of people are commuting to and from Albemarle County into the City of Charlottesville and vice versa. I do know that we're in a small community, and we're going to have connections like this, because there's not a lot of people that are going to want to work for Charlottesville, and not a lot of people that are going to want to run for elected offices. I do think it's a storyline that needs to be discussed, that a candidate for the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors has a spouse that works in Charlottesville City Hall as a chief engineer. Just like when Brian Pinkston ran for council, we highlighted the fact that Brian Pinkston worked for the University of Virginia.
Yeah.
And Brian Pinkston was going to be voting on policy and making decisions where the University of Virginia, the institution, the company that is the most influential in this community, signs his 9-to-5 paychecks. So if we highlight Pinkston works at UVA, we should highlight that Sally Duncan's husband is the chief engineer within City Hall in the city of Charlottesville. Viewers and listeners, I'll open it up to your discussion. What do you make of that news? Deep Throat says, I cannot believe that the Jack Jewett District has to decide between Sally Duncan and David Shreve. And then he offers a mischievous joke. I think this is right on the line of me being able to read. I'm going to read it regardless because the program lives in the PG-13 realm and from time to time nudges into rated R content. But he says, do you want a kick in the nuts or a punch in the face? It's that kind of choice. Number one in the family, Deep Throat says. He says, you got one candidate excessively pro-density versus degrowth environmental extremists, which is Shreve. You can choose either overly extreme end of the growth development debate or the environmentalist debate. And then he says, to be clear, I feel like this is more a risk for CVille City than for Albemarle County. I agree the risk is CVille City than Albemarle County as well, Deep Throat. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Now we go to the next topic. That relationship with traditional media watching the program will be in the news cycle. And in fact, I think all reporting from here on out when discussing the Jack Jewett race with Sally Duncan should make mention that her husband works at City Hall as a chief engineer. That should be in all reporting from here on out. Okay? That's a relationship the community deserves to know. Headline on screen, Jefferson Council, Judah Wickhauer. Goodness gracious, the folks at the Jefferson Council. And how would I characterize the Jefferson Council? We need to get the Jefferson Council back on the show. Would we characterize them as a lobbying group? An activist group?
Maybe advocacy?
Advocacy? What is the fine line today between lobbying, activism, and advocacy? Are they not synonyms? Are they not brothers?
Potentially.
Maybe first cousins? Lobbying, activism, and advocacy? I mean, certainly they're pushing for the prominence, the return to prominence of Thomas Jefferson. Certainly they're pushing for the single sanction honor code. Certainly they're pushing for less bloat on the UVA payroll. And certainly they're pushing for more affordability with tuition at UVA. And without a doubt, they're pushing for the eradication of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the University of Virginia. That is lobbying, advocacy, and activism all in the same candy wrapper. It's like a Twix. It's like a Twix candy bar where you break off the individual sticks. Those three are all connected like a Twix candy bar. Okay? And on Sundays, Richmond Times-Dispatch, a full-page print ad in the Richmond Times-Dispatch. And I've said and hold on, we'll show the ad here in a matter of moments. A full-page print ad ran in the Times-Dispatch where the Jefferson Council wants Youngkin to fire Jim Ryan. In fact, put the ad on screen. Give me a heads up when that ad is on screen so I can encourage the viewers and listeners to take a look at it.
It's on now. I'll probably expand it a little bit so they can see it part by part since it may be a little small.
It's on screen. He's going to blow it up for you guys to take a look at this. The Jefferson Council paying the Richmond Times-Dispatch to print this ad. It's also running in the Daily Progress. Did it run in the Daily Progress today? I believe it did.
I believe you're right.
This is Glenn Youngkin. This is Jim Ryan doing a nana nana boo boo to Glenn Youngkin. You're talking two of probably the most embattled men in 2025 in Glenn Youngkin and Jim Ryan. I would encourage the viewers and listeners to help me answer this question. Which two people in the Commonwealth of Virginia in 2025 have undergone a more embattled public perception fight than Glenn Youngkin and Jim Ryan? Jefferson Council straight up booing Jim Ryan and Glenn Youngkin here, putting his nose in the air with the DEI on the palm.
Yeah.
This is not, do you call this political satire? This isn't political satire. This is political advocacy in cartoon form.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the drawing is somewhat political satire, but if you look at the blocks, they've got quite a bit of information here describing exactly why they feel the way they do.
Well, I mean, we know why they want Jim Ryan out. The Jefferson Council feels Jim Ryan is the ringleader of the DEI UVA that is today, and is the ringleader behind the single sanction honor code being a thing of the past, a ringleader behind bloat on payroll tied to too many administrators, sucking at the teat of the mama cow, UVA. Jim Ryan, the ringleader behind increased tuitional costs, and Jim Ryan behind the politicization of the University of Virginia into this woke educational institution that is far from resembling what it once was. Yeah. That's why they want him out. Mm-hmm. And this ad is now running in, I mean, the Richmond Times-Dispatch, I've straight up said, is going to be the paper of record for the entire Commonwealth as much of Lee Enterprises, as Lee Enterprises owns much of the periodicals across Virginia. Eventually, Lee Enterprises is going to roll these smaller market newspapers into just a bureau of the Richmond Times-Dispatch and call the Daily Progress a section, the Central Virginia section of the Times-Dispatch. There goes Hall Spencer with a fresh haircut, one of the star reporters of the Daily Progress, walking in front of the I Love CVille studio. I get back on track here. Your thoughts on this ad running in the Times-Dispatch Sunday and the Daily Progress today? Jim Ryan, booing Glenn Youngkin, Judah Wickower. Can't wait to hear what you got to say on this one.
I mean, these guys are, the guys putting together the Jefferson Council articles are, I enjoy their content. I think they're smart. They're critical. I enjoy the fact that they don't hold back, and I also like that they are willing to hold UVA to a high standard, which I think is a good thing. We should do that with all of our institutions, especially ones that hold such a large sway in our city.
The embattled nature of Jim Ryan's life right now, also in the news cycle from the UVA Physicians Group, once again attacking or questioning or challenging Jim Ryan and the UVA Board of Visitors, and this time with a letter to the Daily Progress penned by Julie Spiesmaker, the former chairperson of the University of Virginia Physicians Group and a licensed clinical social worker. We'll get to that topic in a matter of moments on the I Love CVille show. But both Glenn Youngkin and Jim Ryan, embattled men right now, influential and powerful men, but absolutely embattled Youngkin and Jim Ryan with similarities. The trajectory of their professional careers of late started in pure form and almost golden child form, and taking the loaves and the bread and feeding the hundreds, if not thousands, and walking on water. Judah Wickower says, Jerry, you rely on that religious metaphor entirely too much, but it's the case. Ryan and Youngkin came out of the gates with so much positive momentum and likability and approachability and trust and human connection. And today they are shadows of their former selves on how they started with their professional trajectory. We'll get to Youngkin in a matter of moments. In regards to Ryan, Judah, I mean, goodness gracious, what happens when Youngkin gets all his appointments on the board?
I mean, couldn't he do what
He's already got a supermajority where he can make the move if he needed to.
I think the only problem is that the rector is still
Robert Hardy sets the agenda.
Yeah.
Very wealthy guy. The money behind the new football facility at UVA, the Hardys. Very wealthy, very influential. A super tight homie of Jim Ryan. Best buds, 2 peas in a pod.
So
Like the 2 Reese's peanut butter cups in a candy pack.
Is he the dam holding back the flood that carries Jim Ryan out of UVA?
The bulletproof vest that protects Ryan from the bullets? Perhaps. Absolutely perhaps. I mean, and the next question I have is this. The Jefferson Council is very aware that Glenn Youngkin's term is close to expiring. And the governor's race right now, we would be far from being honest if we did not see Democrats in the Commonwealth of Virginia having a very aggressive edge right now. And the governor's race, the lieutenant governor's race, perhaps the attorney general's race. Let's just look at what's going on with the GOP. Mm-hmm. The top 3 positions on the Republican ticket are in a soap opera. What'd you call it? Young and the Restless? You call it Youngkin and the Restless?
Yeah.
You have Trump, who's imploded the Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. economies with the Department of Government Efficiency policies, layoffs everywhere, government contracting, and being on the supply chain of the federal government is a large chunk of what Northern Virginia's economy is about. Voters in the Northern Virginia area are absolutely furious with Donald Trump. He's a Republican. That fury is going to be associated downstream in the governor's race, the lieutenant governor's race, the attorney general's race. Those are facts. Then the Republican GOP, the GOP ticket, loses Pat Harity from Fairfax County, a 5-term supervisor. He drops out because of a heart condition. John Reed's the only guy left. The GOP and a PAC, a political action committee tied to Youngkin, are trying to tarnish John Reed with sex pics and gay porn, basically trying to extort him. His words, John Reed's words, not my words, John Reed's words. Reed's on Thursday's I Love CVille show, trying to force him to drop out of the race so they could get a redo with the candidate and lieutenant governor because they thought that Harity was a slam dunk. They never anticipated the heart issues. Yeah. This ticket is in peril. And to say the governor, Winsome Sears, is a slam dunk to win is just not right. You got to say, with everything that's happening with Trump's administration in Northern Virginia, and now with this sex pics, gay porn, extortion scandal with the lieutenant governor spot, and how Youngkin seems to be imploding in the top of the 8th inning, bottom of the 8th inning, with the Burt Ellis fiasco, with the Jim Ryan fiasco, Youngkin imploding with the lieutenant governor fiasco. He's losing a little bit of that charm. I've said this, maybe I haven't said this in the past. You know what propels Donald Trump to victory in the White House? The incompetence from the Democrats on a national stage when they try to puppeteer Joe Biden, a senile old man, and use him as the competition to Trump, only to expose him in national debates. Then they do-si-do Kamala Harris into the race in summertime fashion. Then we realize Harris ain't that smart, and the way it was done was disingenuous at best. That incompetence pushes Trump to victory, and what else pushes Trump to victory is his perceived Teflon nature, his perceived North Star nature, what's it called? Lighthouse ability to direct the economy forward, to take the stock market and our economy and bolster it and make it stronger than ever. The Teflon nature, the protective, bulletproof nature of Donald Trump will crumble quickly if the economy crumbles, if the stock market doesn't perform, if we head into some kind of global or national recession because of the collateral damage of these tariffs. That's when Trump is extremely vulnerable. And you see his approval ratings are at a very low point right now. They've dropped significantly since he's taken office, Trump's approval ratings. As his approval ratings drop, as the economy fractures, as it's vulnerable, the Youngkinites become less convincing and less confident. And that less convincing, less confident Youngkinite is not as apt to vote Winsome Earl Sears, John Reed, Jason Marius, and the Attorney General race.
Yeah.
And if a Democrat is elected to the governor's mansion, Spanberg, if she's elected into the governor's mansion, then you, ladies and gentlemen, could see in a completely about face with the Board of Visitors appointments. So the Jefferson Council realizes, ladies and gentlemen, that their time is running out to make a change. Because if Jim Ryan is able to weather this crossfire, if he's able to weather these attacks till Youngkin is out and potentially a Democrat's in the governor's mansion, you may see another decade of Jim Ryan here. Where's he going to go in the Ivy League? It's not like he's riding his horse with his cowboy hat on and trotting into the sunset. Jim Ryan's got a lot of professional runway left. And the Jefferson Council knows this. They're watching the show. Members of the council, they know that he's got a lot of professional runway left. And this governor's race at this point is leaning Democrat.
Yeah.
For all the reasons I've outlined. That's why the council is going balls to the wall at Jefferson Council with its attacks on Jim Ryan with these full-page ads, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's happening here. I call it as I see it. That's why you watch the program. Viewers and listeners, like and share the show. Your comments, put them on the comment section. I'll relay them live on air. Judah Wickhauer, your comments. Very curious to hear what you have to say about all this.
I mean, they've been at this for a while. And I think I appreciate the fact that, like a hound dog on a trail, they're sticking to their guns. They've had their problems with Jim Ryan, and they haven't been quiet about them. But they have they've got a platform in the Jefferson Council website. And they've clearly outlined their issues, and I appreciate the fact that they've laid down the trail for what they're doing right now, and they're sticking to their guns.
Ginny Hu leaves this comment. She says the relationship between the Albemarle County Jack Jewett candidate, Sally Duncan, is a much more significant relationship than who Meg Bryce's dad was, the late Supreme Court Justice.
No doubt.
I agree with that. I will respond to Ginny Hu's tweet and say, I 110% agree with you. Thank you for watching the I Love CVille VA show. Period. Send. Reply to her tweet. Spencer Pushard says, absolutely that's a conflict of interest that Sally Duncan's husband works in Charlottesville City Hall. He says, that sounds like a conflict of interest to me. Why has that not been in the reporting? Deep Throat, thank you for putting that on my radar. Vanessa Parkhill watching the program. God, there's media everywhere on the show right now. Put the ad up. Someone wants to see, they're tuning in late. They want to see the print ad again that the Jefferson Council published. I mean, Jefferson Council is getting exposure right now on the I Love CVille show that I can assure you reaches Jefferson Council, the I Love CVille show, way more people, the I Love CVille show than running a print ad in a newspaper. Way more exposure. And our content is evergreen content. It's evergreen content. It lives in perpetuity online for people to access whenever they want, however they want, through whatever device they want. You got that ad back on screen?
Yep.
Look at the screen. Georgia Gilmer is shocked by what she's hearing right now. Thank you for watching the show, Georgia Gilmer. Nana booing the governor. Goodness gracious. The time we live in right now. Dr. John Shabe, thank you for watching the program. James Watson, Lauren and Ivy, thank you for watching the show. Johnny Ornalis, Travis Hackworth and Danville, Holly Foster and Henrico, Kate and Ivy, Conan Owen, thank you for watching the program. Kevin and Waynesboro, Carly Wagner, Brittany Gray, Supervisor Pruitt. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Juan Sarmiento, Scott Thorpe, founder of the Toy Lift, Tom Powell, Aaron King, and Ray Cadell watching the show. We got electeds from 4 different jurisdictions watching the show right now. Who's more embattled at this point in 2025? I'll give you a straight-up question. Viewer and listener, give us your thoughts. Judah Wickhauer, you look at the camera right here. If I said you could be Jim Ryan in 2025 or Glenn Youngkin in 2025, who would you be? Who would you rather be and why?
I would probably rather be Glenn Youngkin.
Why?
Because he's got a runway for when he's leaving the office, and I'm sure he already has plans for where he's going after this. Whereas,
and he's sitting on $300 million, $250 million. What's Glenn sitting on? $250 million. Glenn Youngkin is the former co-CEO of the Carlyle Group.
I wasn't taking that into account, but yes, that too. Meanwhile, Jim Ryan, we don't know if he's sent out feelers. I'm sure he must have some question about his continued place at UVA with the tearing down of the DEI initiatives that he's installed and all the other things that have gone on over the course of the last 3-4 years. I can't imagine that he doesn't have questions, and I'm not sure where he would go from here.
I think the answer is clear-cut. You would rather be Glenn Youngkin, and Judah makes a very convincing argument. Glenn Youngkin's not going to get fired. His term's just going to expire. Mr. President Ryan could get fired.
Yeah.
And if you're fired from UVA, your future in education is not as a president again. Where Glenn Youngkin, if he can figure out how to end this term with some grace, could be on the short list for Republican candidate for president next election cycle.
Ugh.
Ugh. Your response on that? You highlight the bully nature. I mean, you've not been a fan of Youngkin from day one. Yeah. I was a fan of Youngkin. I'm still lukewarm on Youngkin. You straight up, is it disdain you have?
I don't know that I disdain him. I just, as we were talking about this yesterday, and I really dislike hypocrisy. And when we were coming out of, when we were heading into the election where Youngkin took the governor's seat, we had all these, Republicans were decrying the mandates that Democrats were enacting, and immediately upon entering office, Youngkin starts up with the mandates, and that felt hypocritical to me, and left a bad taste in my mouth. So I don't think I detest the guy. I just I don't know. He seems a little shady to me.
John Blair in Stanton says this. Jerry, the biggest issue with UVA and Youngkin is that it exploits the fault lines in the Republican Party. Glenn Youngkin is a nearly half-billionaire. He has so many ties to very, very, very wealthy elite Republicans who love the University of Virginia and Jim Ryan. But the GOP base cannot stand UVA and loves anything to stick in an eye of UVA. It's a great point. He's 100% right. The voting base of the GOP, if you look at it in a triangle like this, is this an isosceles triangle? I think this is an isosceles triangle, right?
It might be close. I'd have to get out the
This is an isosceles. It's not an equilateral triangle. This is an isosceles triangle. It's not a right triangle. This is an isosceles triangle, right? I'm having to go back to geometry right here. SOHCAHTOA. You can do it, SOHCAHTOA. We've already done that in the past. We don't have to go SOHCAHTOA. And if you look at the isosceles triangle, right? The entire base, the big portion of the triangle, is not one percenters. It's middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class, upper lower class, lower upper class Virginia.
Yeah.
Right? And this base does not recognize the university as it is today. And Youngkin's stuck between a rock and a hard place. And the rock and a hard place is appealing to the one percenters who are pro-Ryan and pro what the university is doing because it's become a new Ivy League. It's got this moniker of New Ivy. It's got all these prestigious rankings and accolades, best hospital system, all these other awards and honors. And the 1% wants to hitch its wagon to New Ivy League and best of the best. The base, the voting base of the GOP is like, dude, we got to send our kids here. And it's effing $80K for everything for in-state, even more for out-of-state. I'm talking the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Housing, tuition, books, extracurriculars, the whole shebang. And it's too much for us. We can't afford it anymore. There's a problem when the public university of the Commonwealth of Virginia cannot be afforded by the middle class anymore, by the upper middle class. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And the one percenters don't care about that because they're one percenters. But the voting base who will position someone into office does care about that. They do care about that. And they associate bloat and administrative costs that have escalated, leading to tuitions that are unaffordable with DEI and with positions that don't materialize a quality matriculation through the University of Virginia for students. So Youngkin is like, how do I navigate this? He fires Bert Ellis because he caves to peer pressure from the 1%. He replaces him with Cooch, and Cooch is no lapdog.
Yeah.
Cooch is the fox in the henhouse, ladies and gentlemen. That's what Cooch is. That's what Ken is. Okay? Now Youngkin is in the crossfires of the Jefferson Council, and they're like a dog with a bone. They're not going to let go. If he thinks this full-page ad in the Times-Dispatch and the Daily Progress is the end of their rope, nah, they're not going to let go of the bone. They're going to keep grabbing on the bone and gnawing on the bone until the bone splinters in their mouth. And that splintering in the mouth is either Jim Ryan or Glenn Youngkin. The Youngkin and the Restless. This is one of the most genius things you've ever said. The Youngkin and the Restless. I love that. All right, 1:15 marker on the I Love CVille show. Other headlines we got to get to. Judah Wickower, what is next, my friend?
Let's see. Next, we've got other solutions for UVA versus city federal building buy.
I ran into Deep Throat in person yesterday, and we were talking about this. He made some very valid points. It's going to cost a couple $1 million a year to maintain the Federal Executive Institute, whoever buys it. A couple $1 million a year. That ain't cheap. I think the exact number was like 1.5, 1.6 million. It was a UVA number. That's not cheap. What is the Charlottesville City Schools budget? I know Charlottesville's budget in totality is 200 plus million. Charlottesville City Schools operating budget for fiscal year 2026. I should know that number. Do you have that number? I should know that number off the top of my head. I'm disappointed in myself that I don't have that number off the top of my head. I'm genuinely disappointed in myself on that. All right, I'm doing some quick Google search. Fiscal year 2026, Charlottesville City Schools operating budget. Very difficult to do this stuff on the fly while hosting and talking in a microphone. Give me the total operating budget, if you could, please, sir.
For the 2024 fiscal year,
It's looking like it's 125 million. Is the total budget.
It was 119.
That was
for
fiscal year 2024, 2025. I think it's about 125 million. I don't want to get too much in the weeds here. I want about 125 million. All right, Deep Throat's offering some intel. I think it's about 125 million. I'm looking at the documentation from the Charlottesville Public Schools website. So let me put this in perspective. You ready for this, Judah?
Yeah.
All right, we're just going to do some basic math here. He made this point to me yesterday. 1.5%, let's just for the sake of a talk show, call it 2%. Okay, 2%.
Yeah.
2% of the Charlottesville City Schools budget moving forward is going to be just maintenance and upkeep of the Federal Executive Institute should it acquire it. 2% of the budget. 2%. Do we think Charlottesville public school system and all its, I choose my words carefully here, and all its, help me, all its glory, all its
Glory?
all its
I know that's not what you were
all
trying
its
to say.
proof of performance of competence is going to be able to successfully add an additional 14 acres on Emmett Street that's going to cost it about $2 million a year, or 2% of its budget to upkeep? Does it want that additional pressure or overhead or responsibility? He also makes this argument, which I think was a pretty compelling argument. I was thinking about what he was saying on the think tank this morning. And he said that Emmett Street location is not particularly an easy location to get in and out of.
Right.
Especially during peak drive time, morning and afternoon.
Yeah.
It's one way on Emmett Street. Mm-hmm. You have to make a turn. If you're coming the other way, you have to go past the Institute, turn back around. And that's right along the Cock Block. That's right along the Chicken Strip. That's right along Fried Chicken Alley. Raising Cane's, Popeyes, KFC, Chick-fil-A, Zaxby's. Do we want every preschool kid and their parents, along with the administrative offices, to hit the Federal Executive Institute during Cock Block time?
Making U-turns.
Making U-turns at the Cock Block? I don't want any more traffic at the Cock Block. Leave the Cock Block alone. Why are they messing with the Cock Block? I mean, seriously. He also makes this point. You ready for this? Mm-hmm. If you're a parent of a preschool kid, wouldn't you rather have your preschool feeder close to your neighborhood? Because you're probably dropping off a sibling at a different school.
Right.
Or have to help another sibling on and off the bus. Shouldn't the preschool be in the feeder pattern of the elementary school to help foster sense of community and help drive efficiency of drop-off, parenting, unloading, and loading? Am I not right there? Is he not right there?
It's a decent point.
And the strategy we were percolating was the following. And he agreed that the perception was going to be a problem if UVA won this bid. If UVA beat the city and a preschool, basically a preschool system out of the Federal Executive Institute. He said, clearly UVA is going to look bad here if they don't play their cards right, which is the argument we made yesterday. Mm-hmm. Goliath squashing David despite his slingshot and his rocks. Okay? The solution was, what if UVA acquires the Federal Executive Institute, and as a peace offering, as an olive branch, they say, city schools, you want to bring these preschools online and you want to help with administrative office space and infrastructure. Why don't we make a donation or some kind of offering, some kind of olive branch of $5 or $10 million to help you out? We're going to take the Federal Executive Institute, which I think probably has a market value of 14 contiguous acres. Goodness gracious, it's assessed just under $20 million on the GIS. What's the market value on that? 2x the assessment? 14 acres? UVA would probably knock down the old hotel that was there. They would just tear it down and then build whatever they want. They'd land bank it whenever they wanted to. They would. They're not going to use that old dated structure. They'd take the 14 acres. Why don't they give the city some kind of payout for their schools and take over the Federal Executive Institute so we as taxpayers, you, Judah, me, Judah, the viewers and listeners, aren't left footing the bill of $2 million in maintenance a year, every year, in perpetuity for a school system that is not in the business of managing or maintaining property like this. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Media, that could be an angle for you to cover in your news cycles right there.
But so that wouldn't provide a solution for what the Charlottesville City Schools are looking for.
They get a payday from UVA, and they use that payday at UVA to go to their original plan. Their original plan was to build the preschools and the feeder systems near the neighborhoods and the various school districts, the various pockets of schools. That's the original plan.
How many would that require them to build?
The city schools is rationalizing this purchase of the Federal Executive Institute by saying we have already budgeted these preschools strategically positioned around the city. And instead of doing these preschools strategically positioned around the city, Sam Sanders claims they have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do it at one location, the Federal Executive Institute. The suggestion or an alternative solution would be UVA takes the Federal Executive Institute because they want it. They want to play monopoly, and then do the 6 other locations strategically throughout the city. And UVA helps fund that initial plan with a cash out, with a lump sum payout, a lump sum payment of some kind. It's actually a pretty damn good idea. It's a pretty damn good idea. Of course, the activists in Charlottesville. Now you got the teacher union in Charlottesville writing letter. Interestingly, the co-founder of the Livable Charlottesville organization, his spouse is the CEO, is the president of the teacher union. Now the teacher union is writing a letter to the Board of Visitors about the Federal Executive Institute. I don't want to mention what else that could be for the Federal Executive Institute deep throat, because I don't want that to get out there. That would be terrifying. You'd have every one of them in the country coming over here to check out what could possibly be at the Federal Executive Institute. There's no way in heck I'm mentioning that on this platform with all these people watching the show. James Watson watching the program. James Watson is a smart guy. He says that U-turn pattern may actually be an issue, but I do think they can make some road modifications. Yeah, I would ask you to take a look at Walker Elementary. My understanding is preschools plan to go there. The building is 70 years old, along with a nearby administrative office building for the city. It's going to cost the city millions to modify those buildings to accommodate preschoolers because of the numerous staircases. The Walker campus is nice, but the buildings are in pretty bad shape, and the maintenance cost to keep those going currently has to be enormous now. Great comment by James Watson. Yes, the Walker Elementary is a plan, but isn't that a microcosm of the city's failure of upkeeping real estate? The city basically allowed Buford Elementary to be a school that was a crumbling Egyptian pyramid. The city has allowed Walker Elementary to Upper Elementary to be ramshacked, crumbling, deteriorated, dilapidated, shadows of its former self. If they can't keep Buford up, if they can't keep Walker Upper Elementary up, how the HE double hockey sticks are they going to be able to keep up the Federal Executive Institute and the 14 acres in a hotel from what was when was the hotel built? Federal Executive Institute. I'm going to the GIS again. God, I'm spending so much time on the GIS. The Federal Executive Institute's address is 1301 Emmett Street North. I'm going to copy and paste 1301 Emmett Street North into the Charlottesville GIS so I can get some historical data on the Federal Executive Institute. This should be burned by brain by now. Come on, brain. You've been taking creatine, protein, collagen, magnesium, Claritin, and a multivitamin every day for the last 6 months. You must be better, brain. Come on, brain. The details of the Federal Executive Institute built in 1951. Okay, here's a brilliant plan for the city of Charlottesville. Hey, City of Charlottesville. You can't keep Walker Upper Elementary in good shape. Buford was a broken down, crumbling Egyptian pyramid before we spent $80-some million to rehabilitate it. What makes you think that you can take a building from 1951 and 14 contiguous acres that are going to cost $2 million a year just to maintain and manage this property? Seriously. That is a fair point that needs to be made. Conan Owen watching the program. Conan, I want you to understand that I very much respect your commentary on this show, sir. Maybe UVA should finish doing whatever it's going to do with the old furniture store and Mexican restaurant on West Main before taking on another project. That's a fair point too, Conan. It's just playing Monopoly and land banking stuff. That's a fair point. 100% fair point. William McChesney on McIntyre. The plan was to lump the preschool at Walker with the new addition and use some of Walker's building to increase the administrative space. But both Buford and Walker became a pair of 7, 8, 9 junior high schools in 1966. If it can't maintain Walker and it's had a hard time maintaining Buford, how is it going to maintain a building from 1951 with 14 acres on Emmett Street? Am I right or wrong here?
That's a good point.
How is it going to maintain? Last year, Charlottesville High School had side doors that were left unlocked so students could, Dangerous Minds and Morgan Freeman, Lean on Me, let adults into the side doors of the building for backyard brouhahas in the cafeteria. Dangerous Minds, Coolio's Gangster Paradise was going on at Charlottesville High School because Charlottesville couldn't maintain its high school and keep security in place. Now it's going to do a former hotel on Emmett Street? Gangsters Paradise, Coolio, Dangerous Minds, Michelle Pfeiffer and Morgan Freeman, Federal Executive Institute, oh my. Albert Graves, watching the program, his photo on screen. If the city of Charlottesville is only 10 square miles, how much of that 10 square miles is owned by UVA? And how much more real estate should a multi-billion-dollar endowment school be allowed to purchase without paying real estate taxes? And if UVA keeps gobbling up all the real estate, who will be filling the city's tax coffer? Great points from Albert Graves, per usual. Albert Graves, your points are on point, per usual. I'll tell you who's going to be filling a city's tax coffers. The hard-working men and women that live in the city or patronize the city and the tourists that visit the city. That's who will. Facebook message that's asking for anonymity. This Facebook message is responding to Deep Throat's comment. UVA buying it and leasing it to the city for $1 lease situation could also provide centralized location for education school students to do their programs, and it's close to ground. That's a great idea right there. That's a joint venture. Goodness gracious, that's a great idea. Someone's suggesting that UVA buy it, then lease it to the city for $1 a year as an olive branch for the city, and then still the University of Virginia owns it. Then they can lease it to the city. There's an idea. Conan Owen says, someone needs to tell Charlottesville City Schools there won't be all that DOD money to count on anymore. Ain't that the truth? All right. Just some things to percolate. Vanessa Parkhill says, let those admin positions work remotely instead of spending more taxpayer money to expand real estate holdings. I think UVA wants to buy it because of its proximity in the gateway and because it's got all this money in an endowment slush fund with earmarks on it. With you can spend this money if you give me a building with my name on it. Until you give me a building with my name on it, don't spend my money. That's what a lot of that donor money and that endowment is tied to. All right, it's 1:30. We got to go make some money here. We got one other topic. Is the last topic Youngkin? Is that what it is, J-Dubs?
Well, let's see. What's happening to once presidential Youngkin, the Circa.
Save Circa for tomorrow. Let's save Circa for tomorrow. I want to remind viewers and listeners that John Reed, the lieutenant governor candidate on the GOP ticket, the last man remaining that's in this race on the GOP side, is on the Thursday edition of the I Love CVille show at 12:30 p.m. They've reached out to us. They want to come on the show. I will close with what I find to be strange, curious behavior from Glenn Youngkin. In the last month, Glenn Youngkin has fired Burt Ellis after appointing him to the Board of Visitors. Glenn Youngkin appointed Burt Ellis, then he fired him. When Burt Ellis would not listen to Glenn Youngkin, Youngkin leaked a story to the Washington Post to try to tarnish and smear, tar and feather Burt Ellis. Leaked a story to the Post to try to make Burt Ellis look bad, to try to justify his firing from the BOV. That was within the last month. Now, Youngkin, with a fellow Republican who's got deep, long, generational ties to the GOP, is tarring and feathering and stigmatizing and scarlet lettering John Reed through a political action, through a PAC, a political action committee, that is saying to John Reed, we will buy this nasty opposition research that is utilizing sexual pictures and gay pornography to try and make you look bad. And John Reed is saying, that's not my content. I'm staying in this race. My skin is thick. Bring it on. What is going on with the governor? A presidential co-founder, co-CEO of the Carlyle Group seems to have gone off the deep end. With May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December, 8 months left in the campaign.
Yep.
Americans, Virginians, voters, remember the last stages of your campaign more than the early stages of your campaign, when you took Virginia from the pandemic into one of the best places to run a business and a very strong economy. Now, in the final 8 months of your campaign, the Northern Virginia economy is imploding, not because of you, because of the party, because of Trump. The Northern Virginia economy is imploding. The University of Virginia, in some cases, is a dumpster fire. I mean, we didn't even get to the UVA Physicians Group has another letter out in the media.
Yeah.
The UVA Physicians Group, its former chairperson, Julie Spiesmaker, a clinical social worker and former chair of UPG, University of Virginia Physicians Group, she wrote a letter attacking the BOV, attacking Jim Ryan.
Essentially, they're saying they're tossing the physicians under the bus.
That former chair of the University of Virginia Physicians Group is saying the physicians are basically soldiers in a war that go and try to claim a battlefield, and you know the first 100 of those soldiers, thousands of those soldiers that go are going to get bazookaed to death. The physicians have getting bazookaed to death in the war of public perception. And Jim Ryan and the BOV are doing nothing to prevent their bazookaing. That's what she's saying. Youngkin, on his watch, Northern Virginia economy is imploding. The University of Virginia has become a dumpster fire. He's fired a Board of Visitors member. The lieutenant governor on his ticket is being extorted with sex pics. And folks are short-memoried and don't remember a once presidential man leading the Commonwealth out of COVID into one of its strongest economies in history.
Yep.
What is going on? That's the Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show. Judah Wickower and Jerry Miller.